Hi there, my name's Jack Peach and I'm a dating and relationship coach, and unlike so many of these coaches, I'm married, I have a kid, and I've got a second one on the way at the time of recording this. And today I want to teach you the exact 8-step strategy that you can steal to help rebuild your confidence with women. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, how many times have you heard these words? If you want to do better with women, you need to be more confident. Great advice, right? It's not very actionable. There's not a lot for you to sink your teeth into. And often when guys give this advice, they don't kind of tell you how to do it. So that's what I want to change. That's what I want to do in this video. And I want to show you the exact 8-step strategy that I used with one of my current clients to help take him from nervous and lacking confidence with women to, in his own words, being more confident, having higher self-esteem, being more self-assured, and being ready to have the kind of healthy relationship that he wants and he deserves. And one thing that I do that is very different from a lot of other dating and relationship coaches is I'm going to show you my receipts. I'm going to show you the evidence that what I do works. And this is just one example of that. And that way you can have confidence that if you apply these same strategies that I used with him, they're going to work with you as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first step on this 8-step strategy to rebuilding your confidence with women is to find out and become aware of all the way you seek other people's approval. Now, this is probably the most common problem I see in guys who have low confidence with women. It's that instead of living for themselves, instead of kind of doing what they want to do and pursuing their own goals, they start adjusting their behavior and moderating their behavior based on what other people think of them. And that's essentially what seeking approval is. You want to get your validation from other people instead of being internally validated. Now, why is that a problem? Well, when you start seeking other people's approval, you stop living for yourself, you stop pushing down who you are, and you start putting, strangers and people that don't really matter and aren't important to you and their opinions of you above your opinion of yourself. And that means that you basically put yourself last and you begin to come last as a result. Instead of pursuing the woman you want to do, you worry maybe about the judgment of other people, so you don't pursue her and then you miss out on that relationship. This is a very common example of this kind of behavior. And basically, by putting strangers above yourself, you're telling the world that they are more important to you and that they are more important than you, and that you value them more than you even value yourself. And there's many ways that this can happen. For example, some guys will spend hours doing their hair and their hair must be perfect because they believe that other people respect them based on what their hair looks like. And this is different from, not looking scruffy. It's more about, it has to be perfect, every hair in place. I'm sure you've seen guys in the mall doing this, their hair looks fine, but they just need to make it perfect for whatever reason. It can be changing your voice tone to appear less threatening around people. This is a very common one. Instead of talking in a kind of masculine, self-assured voice, guys will kind of change it and they'll change their tone and make it a little bit higher pitched. Maybe they'll talk a little bit quieter so people don't get offended by them. And it just means that they're changing their behavior based on what they worry that other people are going to think about them and not being true to themselves. And there's many ways this can happen. That's just 2 small examples, and it could be hundreds of different examples. For example, in the client that I mentioned before, who this exact strategy we used for, he wanted to appear different from other men. If he was in a social setting, he went to great lengths to make himself look different, seem detached from other people. He had to look perfect. He needed to look perfect in front of other people. And he always wanted to be the smartest person in the room as well. He wouldn't just let people have their time. He would always add another comment because he thought other people valued that. And by drawing attention to this, you can see how much time and effort you spend worrying about what other people think about you every day. And that awareness alone can be really, really powerful. And it really will help with the next step, which we're about to talk about. So what I'd advise you to do is become aware of all the ways that you change your behavior based on what you think other people will think about you. And then just make a list of it. Make a list of those things. Become aware of it like that. So stage 1 was to become aware of all the ways you seek other people's approval. Stage 2 is to stop seeking their approval and start seeking your own. What do I mean by that? Well, instead of changing your behavior based on what other people think of you, you need to do what you think is right. You need to become more comfortable in your decision-making process and being comfortable with doing what you think is the correct thing to do. And well, it's very glib advice, just be comfortable with yourself. How do we actually do that? Well, that's what I want to explain to you. And there is a couple of different strategies that you can use. But the strategy I used with this client, the guy we're using as a model in this example, is to create a model, create an avatar of what a man with integrity looks like for you. That's a very important point. Not what society thinks is a good man, not what your friends think is a good man, not what I think is a good man, what you think is a good man. What values does he have? How does he behave? And create this, list it out, and then you can use that as a guide to direct your behaviors in the future. When my client did exactly this, he began to live for himself. He knew in certain situations, okay, if I do X, Y, Z, then that's not going to be right. I'm going to be doing what other people expect of me rather than what I truly believe is right. So instead, I'm going to do A, B, C, these things that he listed down in his model for integrity. And in doing so, he began to value himself much higher. He became proud of himself. He built his internal locus of control, and he began to view himself as the kind of man he wanted to be. So I recommend to you that you do the same. You create this model of what a man of integrity looks like, and this will really help you rebuild your confidence and therefore start being more confident with women too. Now, that's stage 2. What's stage 3? Now, the third stage, again, builds on the second stage of what we're talking about, and all these things build on top of each other. Confidence is not some kind of linear thing that we just go step by step. All these things are intertwined and interlinked, and this is no different. Why? Because confidence derives from competence, and if you just improve other areas of your life, you'll realize that you'll become more confident in various different areas. This is also why it's always good to work out. This is why it's good to just get good at approaching women. Competence derives from confidence. The other way around. Confidence derives from competence. Now, when you lack confidence with women, something that very often comes up is that you're going to have internalized shame about having needs. And what does that mean? It means you feel guilty or you feel bad for wanting to do things for yourself. Maybe you feel like wanting to have sex makes you, is immoral. It makes you a bad person for having that desire. Maybe you feel like wanting to spend time on yourself instead of, for your friends or your family makes you selfish. And this is wrong. This is not healthy. And the way that I always like to describe this is through the example of when we're on airplanes. Now, when an airplane is crashing, and hopefully none of us will have to live through that experience, it'll probably be the last thing we do live through if that's the case. But they tell you that when an airplane is crashing, that you should put your own life jacket on first before you put the life jacket of your children on. Now, why is that? Well, it's because if you don't take care of yourself, you're useless to the people who depend on you. If you don't have a life jacket on and you die, and the kid has a life jacket on and doesn't die, that kid's still going to be in a very bad position because it doesn't have his parents to take care of him. And it's the same when it comes to needs. If we don't take care of our own needs, we're in no position to take care of other people's needs. So it doesn't make us selfish for wanting to take care of these things. It doesn't make us selfish to meet them. And it's up to us to meet these needs as well, not rely on other people. That's another problem that a lot of guys who have these kind of issues struggle with as well. They expect other people to do things for them rather than just taking responsibility for it, which is something we'll talk about later. So maybe you have these, another thing is you have these needs no matter what. You know, the fact that you feel bad about having sexual drive doesn't mean you don't have a sexual drive. The fact that you might feel bad about wanting downtime doesn't stop the fact that you want downtime. The fact that you feel bad about wanting to maybe self-improve or spend more time on your business or your work to improve your career prospects doesn't mean that you don't have this desire to improve in those areas. So you need to become aware of these needs and internalize that they're not wrong, they're not bad for you, and you aren't bad or evil for wanting them. And this is a really big problem today because society puts a lot of pressure on men and puts a lot of negative weight on men wanting things. This is what they talk about with like toxic masculinity. A lot of that is just creating this shame within men about being men and having male desires and male needs, like wanting to spend time with your friends just in a male environment or wanting to have sex. It's just a natural desire for all men and women too, by the way. So what you need to do is realize that this doesn't make you bad, and then you need to start taking care of your own needs. Now, how do you do that? We'll have to wait for stage 4 in just one moment. So, how do we become more comfortable taking care of our own needs? Well, that's simple. And stage 4 is what I like calling one thing a day. And that's basically where you do one thing a day that takes care of your needs. So, what are some examples I can hear you say? What do you mean by this? What can I do? Well, I recommend listing out around 10 activities, 10 things that you like doing that are healthy and good for you. And as I say, just pick out one a day that you can do. For example, in my client's case, some of the things that he picked out were taking a walk after dinner, was journaling. That was something he found very therapeutic and healthy. It was getting a massage in his case. What this meant, especially for him as well, was very useful because when he decided that he wanted to do something bad, or he felt the urge to do a bad habit, like for example, watching porn, he could then look at this list and pick out something healthy for himself and do that instead. Now, this is really, really important because when you do good things for yourself, you tell yourself and you tell the world that you are valuable. When you don't do things for yourself, you are telling yourself, you are telling the world that you don't deserve good things. When you start doing them, you start telling yourself that you do deserve good things. And this really reshapes the way that you view yourself, reshapes your self-esteem, and rebuilds your confidence, which then bleeds over into women. And it means that you'll be more confident in getting your needs met within a relationship as well, or with women. You're going to be more confident in the way that you talk to them as a result, which is really, really powerful. So step 4 is to do one thing a day. Now, step 5 is very important too. So what is it? Step 5 is very simple. It's to stop blaming other people for your position, particularly women. Now, this is a big one. A lot of guys today, if they've had bad experiences with women, they're in a bad position, is they like to blame other people for that situation. They blame women, they blame society, they blame their parents. But ultimately, you have to take responsibility for where you are. This could be number 1, honestly. This is the most important thing. If you don't take responsibility, you are unaccountable for where you are in life, you can't change where you're going to be in the future because you have no control over it. By taking responsibility for where you are now, You give yourself the chance to change where you will be in the future. And once my client had adapted this mentality and stopped blaming his previous relationships, in this case, he was actually way more diligent in sticking to the plan, and it really sped up his improvement as well. So this is a bit more theoretical, but you really need to do it. You're not going to be able to change where you are in life if you don't take responsibility for where you are in life. So I really recommend you do that as step 5 on this 8-step program to rebuilding your confidence with women. Now, stage 6 on our 8-point strategy to rebuilding your confidence with women is to stop regretting the past and stop regretting your past mistakes. We've all made mistakes, myself included, of course. And whether it's, ruining a good relationship through our inadequacy, or whether it's messing up a good situation, embarrassing ourselves with women, or maybe it's even bad, poor health choices that have a lingering impact on us today, we can't let these problems define us. They're all steps on our path to where we are, and we have to treat them as such. We've got to treat them as learning experiences. They didn't kill us. They made us who we are today, and they were part of our development, but they're not all we are. There's also many other things that have led to who we are today, including our wins and our victories. And what's more is none of these things killed us. We're still here to watch this video. You're still here to listen to me speak. And that means you're still in the game, which means you were able to overcome these problems. And what that means is you'll be able to overcome future problems. Now, my client would often let his past mistakes haunt him quite badly. He was a bad case of it, in all honesty. And he would get super anxious when something similar happened. Like whenever he would talk to a woman in a certain kind of situation, he'd start getting anxious and nervous, and it caused him to withdraw. And what I told him was, instead, you need to repeat this mantra to you. When you're feeling nervous, you're feeling worried, repeat this: I can handle it. Whatever happens, I'll be able to handle it. If this doesn't work out, I'll be able to handle it. Because he was still there. He was still in life, even with those past mistakes. And you can do the same. Whenever you're feeling fearful or anxious or worried about how something will go, just repeat to yourself: I can handle it. Now, another super common thing that I notice a lot with guys who don't have good confidence with women is they struggle with emotional shame. And what do I mean by that? Well, emotional shame is when you feel your emotions are either too strong and you're unable to control them and it triggers guilt in you, or you just feel your emotions and feel like you shouldn't feel them and kind of push them down and repress them. Both are different symptoms of the same root cause, which is that you feel guilty for your emotional state. Now, this is usually triggered from childhood, but also from relationships and from people using guilting techniques to try and control you growing up. And this was something that my client also dealt with quite badly. He suffered a lot of emotional shame, and whenever he got into an emotional situation on dates, which he got a bunch of while we were working together, he would close up, he would freeze up, and he would retreat from the interaction. Now, he was fine when things stayed casual. When their relationship was still casual, there was nothing deeper going on, but as soon as intimacy got involved, that was his response. And what's actually happening there is you're actually giving your emotions more power to control you than they otherwise should have. We all experience emotions, much like needs. They're always going to be there. But when you retreat from them, when you decide that they're too overwhelming, that's when you're giving them power. And he was doing the same thing. And it normally comes from a place of fear. You're fearful about what those emotions will bring for you. And you've got to face that fear. You've got to be able to identify what it is and then overcome it. And this is going to be different from person to person. But you really need to realize, what is causing me this emotional fear? Why am I afraid of my emotions? And then once you've identified that, you have to dig deep and face those fears to overcome them. And the eighth and final step on this 8-step strategy to rebuilding your confidence with women is to surrender. Trust in yourself. Trust in the situation. Trust that everything will work out exactly as it's meant to. Now, I want you to think about this. Were there experiences in the past that you resisted? Maybe a bad relationship ending where you didn't want it to end. But then when it did, it taught you something. You learned something. It worked out for the best. The same is true now. The things that you're resisting, maybe it's a girl not messaging you back and you still want to message her, or maybe it's a bad date and you just want to, go on another date and make it right and she doesn't want to. You need to stop resisting these things. Surrender to the situation and just let things take its place. And this is exactly what happened with my new client, my current client. He surrendered to the situation, he trusted what was happening, and now he's in a really great position. He's actually able to get serious with a woman for the first time. They're on the edge of a serious relationship. At the time of recording this, they're not quite there. And he's in a much, much healthier, much happier position. And I want to read out his full testimonial now, so you can see I'm not just making this up. And I'll do that right now. I'll hopefully be able to put it on screen as well. So let's read through that. He wrote, and I'm quoting, "Working with Jack has given me great insight into my understanding of myself and my understanding of women, both of which have contributed to giving me the awareness and the confidence that I too can have a healthy relationship with the right woman. Under his guidance, I have learnt more about what I'm looking for in my life, who I am as a person, and what my goals/objectives are. Doing so has given me the necessary knowledge and understanding of what exactly I'm looking for in a woman and what are the non-negotiables for me. His methods and experience have helped me understand myself better, and crucially, he has given me the tools to work on my self-confidence and my self-esteem within myself. Now, more often than not, I seek validation from myself and not from others. I know better what sort of man I wish to be and the work I have to do to be that man. Significantly, working with Jack has helped me identify, deal, and overcome my deep-rooted fears when it comes to interacting and having a relationship with a woman. I now know how to identify and release that inbuilt tension in a positive and productive way. Last but not the least, he has given me the tools to have better and more interesting conversations with women. This too has contributed to improving my equation with the opposite sex. In other words, knowing my life's goals and my personal goals, as well as my own self better, has helped me better understand the kind of woman I want to walk the path with me and the role I have to play in it. All in all, our work together has led me to feel more self-assured, aware, and ready to both find and build a healthy relationship with the ideal woman for myself. I highly recommend him. If you want to improve in your interactions with women, get better at dating, or find the right woman to build a solid, long-lasting relationship with, he's your man." And as I mentioned, as a result of him transforming his self-confidence with women, rebuilding the way that he views himself, his self-assuredness, he's now on the edge of a good relationship. This is what happens when you transform yourself. It's what happens when you follow this 8-step strategy to rebuild your confidence with women. And I would like you to do the same. But before, I would also like you to comment below about maybe what happened with you. How do you find your confidence with women? What have you found to improve your confidence with women? And if you'd also like to meet more women, feel free to download my free guide to approaching women. I'll link it in the description box below. It also really help me out if you could like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be producing content way more often on YouTube now, and that would just help me grow on this channel as well. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you can steal this strategy, apply it to your life, and meet the kind of women that you want to be with, get the kind of marriage that you ultimately want. And until then, Jack out.